from Tel Aviv. Americans have been expressing a mixture of support, apprehension and concern in the hours since the US strikes on Iran. And we wanted to hear those views, so we brought together a group of voters for Donald Trump. We've got Brad, who is a retired member of the Special Forces and now an author based in South Carolina. Daniel is a project manager and a Democrat, actually, based in Texas. And we also have Erol, who is a Republican working in the defense sector in California. Hello to you all. Thanks very much indeed for sparing some time for us where you all are. Can I start off by asking you all whether you believe that Donald Trump has made the right decision? Brad?
Yeah, I think if he limits it to the nuclear sites themselves, it is. I think if it expands, I mean, it's a risk, obviously. You can't predict what's going to happen and the enemy gets a vote. But if it sticks just with the nuclear stuff, I think it's the right decision.
You don't fear the United States getting embroiled in a new Middle East war?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I do fear that. But, I mean, right now in the escalation ladder, I don't see Iran knows that if they go against us toe-to-toe, they're going to lose a regime, and they value the regime more than they do their nuclear aspirations. So the ball's in their court to de-escalate. Now, obviously, they're going to retaliate. I fully think that's going to happen, and that's an unknown. I mean, it could, if they do an Al-Assad airstrike like they did after Soleimani, and no harm, no foul kind of thing, then we can de-escalate. On the other hand, if they end up killing 100 soldiers, then it's game on.
Daniel, what's your feeling about whether this was the right move?
I think it was the wrong move. I don't think we had any business getting into a war that, we had no business getting in. The United States has always played a leadership role worldwide, and I felt like this was a good opportunity to pursue diplomatic, negotiations, dialogue, and try to get the Iranians to the table. I know, people will say that they were given, some time to come to the table and make peace, but dropping bombs on them is in no way going to, solve this problem. And so I feel like we're just drawn into a war that we had no business getting into.
And yet, you make that point that people will feel that diplomacy had run its course. I mean, this is a regime that was enriching uranium for many, many years, avoiding the inspections. Its behaviour was highly kind of suspicious. I mean, do you not feel that there was only one option left?
Well, we had a solution, right? Obama had a deal with them, and in 2018, the current president now got out of, And when that deal happened, all reports that we got was that they were abiding by that deal. They were not enriching uranium. They were not proceeding with anything they were working on in terms of enriching uranium. Now, depending on who you talk to, some people will tell you they were enriching that for energy purposes, not to develop a nuclear bomb, right? So you just need to weigh all these options and say, well, is it beneficial to go in there to drop bombs on them? Or is it beneficial to rather go and try to sit and dialogue with them and find a way to resolve this thing peacefully, rather than say, hey, let's drop bombs and then say, come to the table after we've destroyed everything you've got out there. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Errol.
Well, I think that my background in the defense intelligence sector leads me to something that most Americans simply fail to grasp, which is how ideologically hardline Shia Islam, especially the 12 or clerical elite, are. We're not dealing with just a government with weapons. It's a regime that's fusing apocalyptic theology with statecraft, and they believe that this chaos will hasten the return of the Mahdi. So it's very tough to negotiate with those people as you would with secular actors. I support the president mainly because of what I've seen in the Middle East as far as Iranian roadside bombs and the support they've given to our enemies, as well as the concept of them building a peaceful nuclear program is comical when they have the largest energy reserves in the world. They're also building a space program as if they're going to the moon when they're really trying to build an ICBM. Now, I'm fully against boots on the ground. I think I echo what Brad was saying, that this is the farthest of the line that most of us who support this are willing to go. And if we cross it further and put Marines on the beach, I think that support will completely die for this. But in a limited strike capacity, considering all of the circumstances and what President Trump had promised during his campaign, this is sort of antithetical to what the anti-interventionist part of the party has pushed. But if they keep it at this, I'm okay with it.
Except for the fact that he promised during his campaign that he would not enter any more wars, and he would end America's entanglements in the Middle East. I mean, this is another entanglement, if not a full-blown war.
Yeah, no, that's a huge point to bring up, and I think it speaks to the sort of the fifth generation theater of war we're entering, because it's absolutely asinine that two countries are shooting rockets at each other and it's not formally a war. The situation here is that how kinetic can you make something? As Iran and Israel don't share a border, and the only way it can become a ground war is if the Americans go onto the beaches. Now all of a sudden you become almost like a technology head count. Who has the better tech? And right now it's completely one-sided. So Trump is trying to push all the buttons to force diplomacy. And I honestly don't think Iran is going to come to the table and negotiate. I think they're going to try to wait out the Trump presidency, if I'm being totally honest.
Brad, you're a retired member of the Special Forces. Would you have been willing to get on to get involved militarily in a mission like this?
You mean if I was an Air Force pilot? Sure. If you mean, am I going to go penetrate Fordo? No. I think that what we're missing here is that we had a unique situation here, a unique set of circumstances. We mentioned the JPCOA and Obama and Clinton, and everybody has said Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. Given these same sets of circumstances, forgetting about everything that's happened, forgetting about politics, if Obama was president right now and he was given this opportunity, would he take it? And I'll tell you, it was probably a 50-50 choice for him, just like it was with Trump. I mean, what we're looking at is the circumstances that are on the ground right now. Not what's happened in the past, not what could happen in the future, but I was presented with an opportunity to eliminate their nuclear capability, and every president since they started doing this has specifically said they cannot get a bomb. And we were given the opportunity because of the unique circumstances that are here right now. Iran's knocked on our feet, Hezbollah's down, Hamas is down, air defense is down, and we had the opportunity to do it, and President Trump chose to do it.
Daniel, you've got there are 40,000 of your fellow countrymen stationed in the Middle East. There are various American military bases. How worried are you at the moment about the safety of Americans here, or actually in the wider world, given the fact that Iran has promised retaliation in ways that could even be beyond this region in terms of cyber attacks and the like?
Oh yeah, I think everybody's worried at this point for all the forces we have in the region. You know, obviously, I mean, we all know that Iran cannot hit the homeland. So, you know, the next best thing for them, if I was on their side, would be to hit, you know, something close. You know, the next best thing, which is our forces in the region. You know, so basically, what has happened this past weekend is putting all our forces in the region in great risk. Right, because they've done it before, and they're probably going to do it again. So, why take some of these steps, and why not exhaust every diplomatic means to get them to the table, rather than, you know, this action which has now put all our forces in jeopardy. You know, if I was in the military, of course you're following orders, so you're going to do what you're told to do. But then when others are, you know, over there in danger, obviously, you know, we're all worried for them, and nobody wants anybody to be hurt, you know, in this case. Now, we also need to know that with all these, with this war going on, there are a lot of civilians that are being hurt. You know, most of these things happen because the leaders can just sit down and agree on something, and it ends up being civilians who get hurt in these instances. You know, diplomatic reasons, and, you know, diplomatic channels always need to be exhausted. I know one other thing I wanted to point out. Tulsi Gabbard in March said that there was no, they had no reports.
The director of U.S. National Intelligence.
Correct. And she testified before Congress that they had no reports that, you know, Iran was enriching uranium to develop a nuclear weapon. So if the director of intelligence is saying there's no reason to go in there, why is the government so divided? Why are they not going in there with a united front, right? If intelligence is saying that, you know, there's nothing going on, president is saying there's something going on, where are we getting our information from? I thought Erol, we had the best intelligence on the planet.
Erol, how would you respond to that and to those concerns of Daniel?
I would echo the concerns Daniel has shared. I think every American or any person, decent person, is concerned for the lives of servicemen and women who are in the region, and obviously Iran doesn't have the capability to strike the mainland United States. However, if they were to strike U.S. military installations, that would be the official declaration of war. And it does seem that that is the sort of the neocon bait that is existing still out there. If you hit our bases, then it goes to full-on war. And I do trust the U.S. Army to protect its soldiers. And when you are stationed in some of these interesting locations, which I have visited as a contractor, I can assure you the people there are professionals who are ready and have accepted the situation. But anything that puts their lives in a more dangerous situation isn't great. Now, the idea that we've, I think, exhausted all diplomatic or negotiations with them, I think we've crossed that Rubicon, and there's no way coming back. There's obviously bad intent on both sides, but I think ultimately we need to support the president. We need to support our soldiers, and our soldiers definitely have been the ones who have been the victims of Iranian aggression, whether that be IEDs in Iraq, who took the lives of thousands of American men and women on roadside bombs, or their support for vast terrorist networks. You know, it's not just that we're dealing with Iran. We're dealing with a moral obligation, just as we had in the Ukraine, to stand up to people who are perhaps bad actors, at the very polite way of saying it. And the web of terror that they have via Hezbollah in Lebanon, via Hamas in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, Iran funds and arms them all. So if you want regional peace, you're going to have to cut the head off the snake if the snake is not willing to negotiate. I mean, that's the way where we're going. But right now, we're not seeking regime change, and we haven't hit any military targets, at least how we calculate it. So it would be an escalation by the Iranians if they choose to do so.
And Brad, as a retired member of the Special Forces, when you look at this from a military point of view, and you listen to what the Defence Secretary and the Joint Chiefs of Staff said over the weekend about how this operation was carried out, with decoys, with 18-hour flights of those B-2 bombers that took off from the US, and the submarines that launched Tomahawk missiles at a couple of the sites. I mean, do you get a sense of kind of pride in what America was able militarily to carry out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a pretty much flawless operation. I mean, we went from Signalgate, sending emojis over Signal, to this, which is hopefully they learned their lesson from the last time when we struck the Houthis. But getting back to what Daniel said, let's not misconstrue what Tulsi Gabbard was talking about. She did not say that there's no indication they're trying to make a bomb. She was talking about how close or not close they were to a bomb. Iran has a nuclear reactor. Iran has a nuclear reactor that produces power into Iran. None of this uranium they've developed over the years has gone to that nuclear reactor. That nuclear reactor is fueled by Russian fuel. If this was all peaceful, why would they not be using that for their own nuclear reactor? On top of that, you don't enrich it to near weapons grade. That's not necessary for peaceful purposes. The only reason you would do what they're doing is for a bomb. So there's no question they're trying to make a bomb. The question is, how close were they?
And whether a decision had actually come to take that final step, which is something that perhaps we will never know. Brad, Daniel and Erol, very good to talk to you all. Thanks very much indeed for joining us here on OS.